Hey everyone, today I have a special guest. Her name is Megan Harris. And what I really loved about Megan is her work with art and health. So that's what we're going to talk about today. With that in mind, Megan, welcome, welcome, welcome.
Hello.
Hello. Can you please tell us a little bit about yourself and what art-based health coaching is?
Yeah, absolutely. So, my name is Megan, and I'm an art-based health coach. And what I do is I help creatives have fun again on the journey to good health. And we focus primarily on mindless eating, day-to-day anxiety, negative self-talk, and I want to help creatives commit to healthy eating, self-care, and positive thought. And we do that through a couple different tools, art being one of them, as well as mindfulness and traditional coaching skills.
Cool. So I just need to know, please define what a creative is. So anyone listening will know if that's them.
So it's interesting that you asked that because that's actually part of what I want to talk about today. Technically, anyone can be creative. So I guess if you want me to specify, if you are someone who enjoys anything from coloring in a coloring book to painting beautiful paintings, graphic design, whatever, if you have that sort of thread of creativity running through you, if it makes you feel happy to create, then that's who I'm talking to.
All right, that's a cool definition because I know coloring books right now are becoming kind of a real popular thing. Down to like when I was a kid, it was old school paint by numbers, right?
Yes.
So there's a lot of even apps out there that you can just kind of paint by number, so to speak, and a lot of people are really enjoying that. So I'm wondering if those people are inner creatives and didn't even realize it, or they just can
Yes.
tap into the power of doing something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, and you know what, I guess since we're talking about this, I'll go ahead and make my point about it,
Yeah.
that everyone is creative. And my point about it is this, we probably can't remember the first time someone handed us a crayon. But when they did, if you've ever been around little kids, you know, you hand them a crayon, you show them that you put the pointy end on the paper, and that's it. That's all you have to show them. And they take it and they run with it because creativity is part of who we are as humans. That's why there are paintings on cave walls, right? It's in us. Now, not all of us are very skilled. I am not a particularly skilled artist, but I am creative and I enjoy it and it makes me happy. So that's my point about everyone really truly is creative.
Well, and I think creativity comes in so many different ways. Like recently, I started crocheting,
Yes.
and I haven't crocheted. Gosh, I want to think like Girl Scouts when I was in
Mm-hmm.
elementary school or middle school. But I was like, I'm kind of bored, so I think I'm going to learn how to crochet. And I'm crocheting blankets for like everybody right now. Everybody's getting a blanket. Spoiler alert, everyone's getting a blanket for Christmas, or whatever. But I really enjoy just the mindful yet mindless way that I can crochet, right?
Yes.
So
Yep.
yeah, it kind of helps me take the distraction out, and the distraction of what's happening in my brain, and just kind of put it into every stitch, you know.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
so let's talk about this powering up your journey out of anxiety with art-based health coaching. So
Mhm.
if you could give the audience like three things that they could do that might help them get out of anxiety using art-based health coaching, what would those three things be?
So it really depends on the individual, but going back to what you just said about it helping you be mind mindful, um, it, creativity, specifically any art making activity, helps you become mindful. It puts you in something called flow state. So um, for someone like me, I really enjoy just pen to paper, black pen, white paper. And what I like to do is I turn on some music, I light some candles, and I start just drawing little doodles, little lines. There's no expectation of what it's going to turn into. And I just let the pen flow on the paper until it all connects. And then afterwards I might, put a little funny face on it or turn it into a flower or whatever. The point is that it's not about what I'm making, it's about how it's helping me to feel. So that's one simple thing that someone could do. Now you could take it further if you happen to have some paints, some art-based supplies. I don't know if you can see it behind me, probably not, but I have an old book, and I did it's like a Rorschach painting
Yeah,
within
Rorschach.
the book.
Mhm.
Yeah. And that was really fun. It was a really fun exercise. And so what you could do is you could take a book or just fold some paper, whatever you have on hand, put different colored paints on one side of the book or the paper. And you want to choose paints that make you feel peaceful, make you feel calm, help you feel grounded out of your anxiety. Then you close the book or the paper, smooth it all together, open it up, and you have something beautiful that represents calm and peace, and a journey out of anxiety. And then the last tip I have is that creativity isn't always just about art. You can use creativity in all different aspects of your life. So for instance, we recently had to take up our patio to have some work done in the back. And when I put it back down, I didn't just slap a square back down in the backyard. I was creative, and I made this little space for my yoga mat and this small walking path. And I did something I'm calling painting with flowers. I planted the seeds in a specific way so that there would be
Oh,
these
cool.
waves of color. Yeah. And so you can use creativity in any different area of your life, but it's really, does this act help me feel more grounded?
Hmm.
That's what it boils down to.
So when you were talking about the first thing, like, so I used to own daycare centers, and we would talk about art like it's the process
Yes.
rather than the outcome, right?
Yes.
However, I have, so I'm a control freak, and everybody knows this, so it's not news flashy information here. I like to know what I'm making.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I like to do things like sew. I like to
Mm-hmm.
sew because I have a pattern and I
Yes.
have certain things to do. But the creative part for me with sewing is things like picking out fabric,
Yes.
and what would partner well together. But I still have like an idea of what I'm putting together because I kind of need to know that. Like,
Yes.
same thing with like making these blankets, right? So I know the stitch, I know the thing, but picking out the color for the stitch, and do I want to change the color, that kind of thing. So for me, it's kind of a combination of product and process,
Yeah.
in there together.
Yep.
But it still works the same. So what I guess my point is, I don't want people to be afraid that, well, I don't know process, like I don't know, then pick something that does have an outcome, but
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
That's part of, so we can talk about this later, of course, but this freebie that I mentioned to you is a
Yes.
mandala coloring book, because I know a lot of people they're not okay with this like lack of planning and process. But I understand that I'm like a little bit of a rebel here. Um,
Yeah.
so a great resource that I have in addition to my freebie is a website called Monday Mandala. And you can go on and print a beautiful mandala page that the artists there are making. And then you can use, color pencils, markers. I guess maybe you could use watercolor, although I don't know how well that would work on computer paper.
Yeah.
And you can just color in a mandala and again, focus on what color is helping me to feel more grounded. And like usually it's, blue, right? But it's up to you. And how else do I want to feel today? I want to feel joyful. What colors are going to help me feel joyful? And so you're choosing your colors, right? Like you're
Hmm.
choosing that part, but you have your lines, they're already drawn in. It's not completely free form. So you don't have to have anxiety about that.
Right. I was always the kid that colored in the lines,
Yeah.
and when you would ask me to like draw my own picture of something, literally it's like I get stuck like, can't you give me an idea of what I should be drawing first? And then,
Yeah.
I'll go on. I'm just a control freak. That's all. So I went on your website, which is it May Apple Health?
Yep.
Okay, May Apple Health. And you have pictures of yourself in there, like cooking and things like that. So
Yeah.
how does that kind of come together with the art based health coaching for you?
Yeah. Well, so I am a health coach. And so the art is a tool to help us get to good health. And good health is it's holistic, meaning I focus on mind, body, and soul, which I really lump creativity into that. And so I'm helping people understand what healthy foods are, um, deal with some like minor day-to-day anxiety, positivity, self-talk, encourage them to exercise. In other words, health is about more than just how much kale you eat. It's about everything. Yeah. And having a path to get there. And so the thing with art is that this is something that I discovered for myself, because I wasn't a particularly healthy person. I'm here because I went on a journey to get here. And I discovered on that path that for someone like me who is sort of creative and free flowing, that involving art in anything I do means that I'm more likely to stick to it.
That's interesting. I want you to tell everybody what your past is, because
Ooh.
I think you have a fascinating path that somehow intersected with art. So go ahead and tell us what your past is. What did you
So,
used to do? I read
so
your
career,
bio.
yeah. So career wise, you mean?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So I still technically am doing that. So I have a master's in microbial biotechnology.
So slow
Um,
that down. Say that slower. You have a master's in.
Microbial biotechnology. So the application of microbes in technology, right? I
All right.
always
I'm
say
just like,
hashtag nerd alert.
yeah, but it's so not what I expected because of the art like that. Yeah, anyway, go ahead, keep
Yeah.
going. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because I feel like I'm like a lot of creative people. Growing up, I was like, I want to be a poet. I want to be a painter. I want to be a pianist. And then, of course, everyone's like, you can't
Make
make
a
money
living
doing
doing
that.
that.
Yes.
Mhm.
And I was like, well, I'm good at science. And so I went the science route. But I also happen to really love science. Um, and and so now I still work in medical writing. And in a way, when you're thinking about study design and interpretation of data, it is still sort of creative in a way. There's obviously a lot of structure involved in that, and it's not completely creative, or it wouldn't be the scientific process.
True.
Um, yeah, but so that's what I do. So I worked in a laboratory in hospitals for 5 years, running diagnostic testing um, to help physicians diagnose their patients, and then automation started doing my job. And so I went to grad school to get my master's in microbial biotech, and I still worked in the lab, but in a quality control perspective. Are these manufacturing environments in a state of control? Are the drugs we producing good quality? And then slowly moved away from the bench and moved into medical writing. And so that's what I still do on a part-time or freelance basis. I feel very lucky during this crazy coronavirus
Yeah.
crisis that I'm able to keep my job, because I am working in pharmaceutical industry still.
Yeah.
Um, but in the midst of all of that, there was a point where I was working 60 hours a week, not exercising, living off of coffee and bagels, doing the thing that we all do, just trying to get by. And I was getting sicker and sicker and sicker. And eventually it all culminated. You'll like this. I call it Bagel-geddon, the day,
Okay.
the day it all exploded. I had a horrible, horrible allergic reaction to something. I did not know what was going on. And I thought I was dying. And I called my mom dramatically to tell her goodbye. And she did what moms do, and she told me to take Benadryl.
Yeah. Because you're not dying. You just need some Benadryl. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so after that, I made an appointment with an integrative medicine specialist. So she's a MD who also studied Chinese medicine and nutrition.
Yeah.
And she asked me all of these questions about my health. And she was like, I think you have a gluten intolerance. And of course, like, mind you, I was, like very, much in the pharmaceutical world, very like corporate yes
Yeah.
person. And so I was like, gluten, like, I can't believe I wasted my money on this person.
Right.
But I tried going gluten-free for 2 weeks, and a lot of my issues, not all of them, but a lot of my issues went away. And so that opened my mind to this idea that food is medicine. And,
Hmm.
I still was suffering from anxiety, and depression and some other minor things. And I wanted to be able to heal myself and to heal that. So I went to the Institute of Integrative Nutrition, became a health coach. And then while I was there, I was very bored with the traditional coaching
Yeah.
skills. And so I decided to just do what I do and infuse art into it.
Yes.
And so that is the long story of how I.
No, but it's fascinating because you're still in the pharmaceutical field. So it has to be often sometimes conflicting.
It can be, I think that when people see the patient or the person as the bottom line, then the two things actually can work well together.
Mm-hmm.
But if you see a pill as the end all be all, and you don't acknowledge nutrition, and you don't acknowledge lifestyle, and you don't acknowledge a person's own ability to change their health with what's going on in their own mind, then it is conflicting.
Mm-hmm.
But luckily, there are a lot of people, especially now with what's going on with coronavirus, who are waking up to the fact that you have probably more control over your own health with your diet and what you're doing, and your lifestyle than the pills that you take, with some exceptions. There are people
Oh, for
who
sure. I,
have.
I, I always tell people, like, I am not anti-pharmaceutical at all. I believe that it does save lives in major ways. I just think that, especially in the mental health realm and things like that, like, it does often become a one pill, one ill type scenario, and without looking at lifestyle and the other pieces of a person's life. But that comes down to individual education, because I
Yes.
think as a society, that's, you go to the doctor, you get a prescription, that's pretty much the end of it, and the
Yeah.
doctor might recommend that you see a therapist, and you can take or leave that recommendation, or see a health coach, you can take or leave that recommendation. So I think people do, I think it is our job, our mission, to educate that it is not one pill, one ill. And
Yes.
yeah, you might feel okay in the moment or early on, but eventually all the lifestyle stuff that you did not address is going to creep back up on you again, until
Yep.
you address some stuff. So
Yeah, exactly.
it's very interesting. I think your work is fascinating.
Thank you. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
I do. I'm like, in a different world, maybe I would have worked in the pharmaceutical field. It's maybe in an alternative universe that is what I'm doing. I do not know. So, all right. Do you have any big tips or anything you'd like to share with people about art that you haven't already shared with us? Can you?
um,
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I have 4 myths
All
that I'm.
right, do it. Bring it
All
up.
right. All right. So let me scroll here. All right. So we've kind of addressed some of these already, but I want to lay these out because they're really important. Okay. So myth number 1, I'm not creative enough. We've already spoken about that before, how creativity it's part of who we are as human beings. And as soon as someone showed you how a crayon worked, you knew what to do. Or
That's
what
right.
about, I don't know if you have kids, but or it really just been around any kids, but you give them a marker, and what they
They color
do.
themselves usually.
Yes. Yeah. No one showed them how to do that.
No, right?
So they're being creative.
Yeah, they
So
are. Sure.
yeah. The the next myth is, I don't have time for creativity.
Oh, that's a
And
hard one.
yeah. And so maybe now with coronavirus, we all have a little bit more time because we're at home. But, if things go back to the way they were, and in a sense, I hope that they don't go back to the sort of manic lifestyle we were all leading.
Yeah.
But if they do, then like time is going to be an issue again. And so my point is this, that when you get out your sewing kit and or your crochet kit and you start working on your crochet project, how long does it take you to start feeling mindful?
I would say probably 20 minutes, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe less, maybe less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, and for myself, when I start drawing and painting, um, sometimes I really go, it's called flow state.
Mhm.
Um, I go into that in about like 90 seconds.
Oh, really? Well, because
Yeah.
I'm new to crocheting. So at first, when I first started, I feel like I have to, I'm still watching the YouTube video while I'm getting going every time I
Yes.
put it down. So it's not
Yeah.
a natural thing for me right now. Like I don't have the muscle memory for it right
Mm-hmm.
now to get into that flow state. But I'm sure the more I do it, the more it's just going to be pretty automatic. Like I was talking to my daughter on the phone the other day, and I crocheted an entire line, and I didn't
Mm-hmm.
really even remember crocheting the line,
Exactly.
so you just kind of get into that, and I don't know, it's weird. It's a weird
Yeah.
thing. Flow state. I like that.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. It's a really fanciful word for mindful.
I like it
um,
better than mindful. We overuse that word a lot. So,
yeah. Yeah.
hmm
But my point is that you don't really need that much time
hmm
to be creative.
right.
Okay, so here's my third myth. I need all the art supplies.
Or I don't have the money for all the art supplies. hmm
Yes.
hmm
And so here's my point if you want to keep going back. So I already made the point about creativity can be in anything, right? But if we're talking about art making, all you need is a thing to make marks with and a thing to make marks on. That's it. So there have been times when I wanted to make something, and I do like no spend weeks sometimes,
hmm
and I was like, oh, I can't go to Michael's, and I would get out like the little, what are they called? They're kind of like newspapers, but with like upcoming concerts and art events and things like that.
hmm
I would go grab one of those from a coffee shop, and I would get out my fingernail polish and I would do something with my fingernail polish. Like there's always something, or you could do like tea staining or coffee staining, or there's literally always a way to make marks on something.
So this is funny because I go back to kids, and how many times has your toddler made marks on something with something? Like they don't care the medium,
Yep.
they don't care whether it's a wall
Mm-hmm.
or clothes or their own face,
Yep.
or in the case of my middle daughter, she decided to label when I was pregnant with my son, she grabbed a black Sharpie and she put her name on everything in her bedroom so she wouldn't have to
Oh.
share it, like dresser
Oh.
drawers, um, sheets, the walls, like everything had her name on it. And
Yep.
she didn't care. And I think she was being creative after a while because of the way she would start writing it differently.
Uh-huh.
So they don't care what the medium is. So if you think about that as an adult, like not like pigeonholing yourself into certain paper if you're going to draw, or, I have to have a pencil set or something beautiful to do this with. You don't,
Yes.
you
Yeah.
know? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's enough pigeonholing in life already. Let's not bring it to the creative process at
That
all.
is,
This
that
is
is
the opposite of pigeonholing.
That is right. All right. So tell people again about Color Me Happy and where they're able to find that.
Yeah, so that is so it's a contemplative coloring book. They're pages that I put together with the mandalas from Monday Mandala, and they can find it at bit.ly/contemplative coloring.
All right. And we'll put that in the show notes for everyone so they can link access to that as well. So that's a really cool free resource, by the way.
Thank you.
Coloring is pretty in, especially now when we're all kind of trapped inside. So it gives you
Yes.
something nice to
Yeah.
do. And
Yeah.
so how can people find you?
So the best place to find me is on my website, mayapplehealth.com, where they can join my email list. But if they want to see anything else I have online, they can find me on Instagram at mayapplehealth. I will go ahead and warn everyone that I am trying to I'm trying to take a little bit of a step back from social media. I'm trying to live what I preach to people. So I'm not on there all the time. That's why
That's
I
all
say,
right. But you've got
like,
some good content on there from before.
yes,
So, all
yes,
right,
exactly.
cool. All right, you guys, you can find her at mayapplehealth.com. This is Megan Harris, and she was talking about how to power up your journey out of anxiety with art-based health coaching. It's a really cool extension of health coaching that I had never heard of before until I met with Megan. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, take care, everyone.